All right. So yeah, it looks like everyone is filing in. We had a pretty good turnout so far for the signups. So as people are filing in, I'll ask that everyone just turn off their camera that isn't part of the presentation for now. And also just stay on mute. That way, as we're in presenter mode, it doesn't start flipping around through a bunch of different people. So I appreciate that. And we'll give everyone just another minute or two before we officially get going.
Okay, you may have to explain to me how I can go into, because I'm trying to stop video and it's not doing it.
So if you, Lee, you should have an icon in the lower left corner that has a microphone and a camera.
Yeah.
Just click on both of those.
Okay, the camera one is working. Excuse me, the mute, I can do the mute, but for some reason the stop video won't stop.
All right, well, just let it roll in. That works for me.
Okay, I'll mute. I'm going on mute.
All right, thank you, sir.
That just means we all get to see your beautiful face, Lee.
That's right. Lee, that means you have to give us 15 minutes on downtown development.
You need to unmute yourself if you're going to comment, though.
Laura, we've gotten him this far. Let's not jinx ourselves. All right. Well, I'll go ahead and introduce myself. Thanks everyone for jumping on this afternoon. I'm McDaniel Wyatt. I handle business development for Humphreys and Partners Architects here in New Orleans. This is our third installment of our ULI Louisiana Fall Content Series. We're going to be joined by Christian Briere and the rest of the Domain company's team here and talking about our most recent project together, the Odeon. I want to go ahead and thank our ULI team for helping put this together. Jean Guidry, our program chair with Chaplain Peer, our district chair, Antique Landis, and Nicole with who works for ULI here as our district manager. So for me, I'm pretty involved as well in the group. I am on the management committee and I serve as the communications chair, and then on the steering committee for our annual emerging trends in real estate event. So as we get kicked off here, a little bit about who ULI is and what we do. It is our mission to provide leadership in responsible land use, create sustainable, thriving communities across the world. We're a nonprofit, nonpartisan group of industry professionals, and we provide unique education and networking opportunities. As far as programming, we haven't been able to meet in person much this year, but we have increased a lot of our events just like this, and we try to drive as much value as we can to our members. Let's see here. One thing that really sets us apart is our eclectic group of professionals. As you can see, we're joined by developers, architects, engineers, contractors, attorneys, financial professionals, brokers, public officials, and students. We have 43,000 members worldwide and close to 300 across the state. None of this could be possible without our sponsors. So I wanted to make sure that we thank them for their generosity. Walker and Dunlop, the Tulane MS Red program, Iberia Bank, Hancock Whitney, Sterling Properties. We have a lot of really cool, great initiatives that we're going to be kicking off at the beginning of 2021. And we want to thank all of them for our support. If you're interested in becoming a ULI sponsor, Chris Lobato with Iberia Bank is our sponsor chair. So if you don't know him, feel free to reach out to myself or Nicole, and we can put you guys in touch with him. So that being said, I want to open it up to Christian with Domain Companies. Christian, thank you so much for joining us this afternoon.
Thank you, McDaniel. I appreciate it. And we appreciate you hosting this event with ULI. So I'm here to talk not only about the Odeon, but kind of South Market in general. So those of you that are not familiar with the Domain Companies, we're a real estate development company based in Louisiana, New York, and now Utah. We're a nationwide company. We primarily develop multifamily housing from affordable all the way through market. We have also, in recent years, expanded our product line to include hotel, like ACE, for example, and our own co-working platform, which a lot of you are familiar with at the shop at CAC. Our company started about 16 years ago in the multifamily space in New York, and we have slowly grown over the 3 markets that we're in at this point. We first came down to New Orleans after Katrina, primarily to develop affordable housing along the Tulane Avenue corridor. And in that time, we opened to great success. In 2009, we opened 3 projects along Tulane Avenue. And then we shifted our focus to primarily market rate housing located downtown. Of the areas that were available for development of such product, we found that South Market, or what later became known as South Market, in the area around the Union Passenger Terminal at the intersection of Poydras and Loyola, we identified a site or multiple sites in the downtown core that we felt were ready for that redevelopment. This picture is actually a picture from 1864 of those parcels that we assembled around South Market near Poydras Street. McDaniel, you can go ahead to the next slide, please.
Yeah.
In that area, one of the most well-known landmarks is the Plaza Tower. This area was initially identified by city leaders as what they thought would become the Class A office core, with high rises being developed along Loyola Avenue and pushing back a little towards the river and moving up towards Canal Street. As we all know now, the actual Class A corridor ended up being Poydras Street, which left the Plaza Tower standing alone on Loyola Avenue. And in between Poydras Street and the Plaza Tower, there was a lot of mixed-use development and a lot of Class A office space. And there was a lot of surface lots that became available right around the time when we were looking downtown. Go ahead, McDaniel. Here is an original rendering of our original pitch book for South Market District. Obviously, in the process of developing a proposal for an area where this much development needs to take place, we were thinking about, highest and best use, future use, where we thought the development of the New Orleans downtown core was going. As you guys know from being in that area today, it is substantially different. But the core principles of what we were trying to do, we have maintained, and we've been rather successful in continuing that development step by step. So here is a picture of the 4 sites that we assembled really over the course of 4 years. After we opened our Tulane Avenue properties and we started to look downtown for a real, large core location, it took us roughly about 4 years and over a dozen transactions to assemble all the parcels that we know now as South Market. Included in that was the Rouse's site, the former Sewell Cadillac, which we ended up not developing. But Rouse's took on, which was actually a benefit for us because in multi-phase development such as this, in a downtown core neighborhood, which was at that time essentially a food desert, having a grocery store as an amenity and also a resource for the neighborhood is paramount. And developers that take that on usually end up having what is known as a loss leader with the grocery store, but it amenitizes their project. It creates value within their projects. And we were lucky in that Rouse's was growing at that time and saw the opportunity as well. So the original phase, the first phase of South Market for Domain was the Paramount and the Park, included in phase 1 in this slide. Daniel, I think you can jump to the next one just so all of them are labeled. And at that time, the rents in the downtown area were approaching $2 a square foot per month. And what I'm going to do is kind of walk through this quickly and demonstrate kind of the value that comes along with not only the way that we are financing these projects, but also the way that we're stepping up design as we go, increasing class of product, increasing sophistication, increasing amenities, and what we can do from an urban development perspective, but also a value perspective. So originally we had planned for these two buildings to be mid-rise buildings with parking included and retail on the ground floor. At that time, it was really tough to underwrite anything in the rent ranges that we were expecting if we were going to build something like that. So what we did is we broke it into two buildings and basically separated the parking from the residential and then included retail in the bottom of both. I mentioned that there's a variety of financing mechanisms that we used for South Market. And in these two buildings, we utilized a lot. So the Paramount, which you can see here on the corner, is a HUD finance project. It was one of many done in New Orleans around that time. We underwrote this project at basically $2 a square foot, where we thought that we could push rents to at that time. And we ended up leasing up earlier than our schedule predicted and at higher rents. We actually ended up underwriting this one at 210 and leasing up at 250. Across the street is where the park is, where McDaniel's showing now. In the background, it's that white building where our house is located across from Rouse's. That was done via new market tax credits. And that building is a retail ground floor with 500 spaces, parking spaces above. And the reasoning for that was that we could supply all at once the parking for what we thought was going to be a multi-phase residential building. So the next step in that development was the Beacon. And like I mentioned, we had leased up at 250. So we were able to, at the Paramount, so we were able to underwrite a higher rent for the Beacon. And you can see here, we kind of stepped up not only the design level, but also the construction type. So it went from stick built over concrete podium, which is wood frame over concrete podium, to an infinity system, which is light gauge metal frame. And again, we incorporated retail in the ground floor. I should mention throughout this time, I'm talking a lot about where residential rents were at that point and how we were pushing with each phase those residential rents. But the same goes for the retail. So when we were developing this multi-phase project, we knew that we were going to be dealing with, things like I mentioned, like the food desert, with a lack of, recreational activities, a lack of a whole lot of restaurants in the area. So what we did is we programmed our retail accordingly. So we have not only the Rouse's, which opened about a year and a half before the Paramount did. So the grocery store amenity was in place. We added a CVS, our house in the park. And then in Paramount and Beacon, we focused more on food and beverage retailers and service retailers. So basically, when developers always talk about a live, work, play environment, and with the incorporation of being so close to Poydras Street, we could actually hit all three. Most times you'll end up hitting one, maybe one and a half. But we were lucky in the location that we were in, as well as the kind of stepped up process that we were going for. We've been working with, a number of folks in the market to help us lease the space, including Corporate Realty and others. And we've been able to see kind of the fruits of our labor with not only the absorption of the apartments that we continue to produce, but also the increased legitimacy of this as, a neighborhood. You can keep going, Daniel. So like I mentioned, when I first started talking, we've also expanded our product line to include hospitality. So in 2016, we opened our first hotel, which is the Ace Hotel, right around the corner. We consider it part of South Market, although it's not, within those number of parcels that we assembled from 2009 to 2013. We have also added the Maison de la Luz, which opened last year. And we also have opened, along with that, additional retail from the restaurants at the hotel, including Josephine Estelle and Seaworthy, as well as some local retailers like Friend, Defend New Orleans, and the Parker Barber. And then our next parcel that was to be developed is actually backed up to the Beacon on Girard Street. The Standard is located on Julia. And in that time, we were analyzing the market for where we thought we could go. I mean, we could have continued in multifamily, but we thought that there was an opportunity to go condo. All of the rest of the buildings at South Market up to this point, and including the Odeon, are multifamily apartments for lease. The Standard is the only building in South Market that is for sale. We only have a couple of units left before we sell out at that building. It is done very well over the course of its sales period. It opened in April of 2018. And we set a number of records with regard to sales, including the highest price unit in the market, one of our penthouses, and the highest sales per square foot in the market up to this point. Again, here, there is also a retail base, and we've had some additional nationwide appeal to retailers there. So Otrevase, which is a national restaurant group, located their restaurant on the corner. They opened in 2019. And we also have some local players. Eustace Mortgage moved their headquarters office down to the ground floor from the Energy Center. And we also have a national retailer in Rye 51 and Cube Clothier who is located here. So overall, we've been excited about what has been happening at South Market. And as we keep on stepping up and continuing to evolve the product in that area, our next step was obviously to go up. So we started actually kind of the ideation of this project 3 years ago, maybe a little bit more actually. At that point, we had leased up Beacon at about $2.70 a square foot, which, as you could tell, is a serious difference from where it was when we got started. And we were really trying to push the limits of product level in New Orleans, operational platform, management platform, how we manage our properties and the amenities that we provide, and really create a new standard of what we see as Class A residential living in a downtown market, namely New Orleans. So as you can see in front of you, these are some of the early renderings that we had put together with our partners. It took us a good deal of time to get this project financed. The way that the structure ended up working out was we split this building into 2 condos, which is a residential condo on top, which is basically the tower, and a retail and parking condo, which is on the bottom. The retail condo is financed locally with Iberia, and the residential tower is financed through a HUD 220. And that was a very big achievement on our part, as there are only, I think, 2 high-rise HUD projects in the country, and the other one is basically next door to their national office. So we were very excited to work with Humphreys, our financing partners, to get this project started and get it underway. And we closed in June of 2019 on this project, or sorry, 2018 on this project. And we are looking to open its doors next month for leasing. So we are really excited about where the market is going from the residential side. We're really excited about the ability for us to evolve in this market. And we're excited to see what happens next.
Awesome, Christian. Appreciate that recap, and also appreciate the segue on the HUD financing for the high rise. We actually at Humphreys and Partners were fortunate, like Christian was saying, to have designed the largest HUD loan in Louisiana, and also the other high rise in Texas. So 2 of the HUD finance projects were done with our shop. And I think that's one of the things that people don't realize about the HUD process. Christian, do you want to give a little bit of overview about the 221 D4 program? Because that's one of the things I come across the most, just people misunderstanding, kind of what that does and the types of products that it creates.
Sure. So HUD, obviously the Department of Housing and Urban Development, they are, a government agency that is very specifically focused on housing, obviously. And a lot of the programs that they had created previously were specifically directed at affordable housing, or other programs that were maybe not on this size and scale as that we're able to develop today. And the 221D4, which we used here, is actually a market rate housing program in which you focus more on green design, stormwater management, and a number of different elements that can get you the ability to finance a fully market rate project with HUD financing. And some of the benefits of HUD financing, the major one is that essentially it's cheap money. It's very stable, usually pretty low interest rate capital that you can invest into a project, and it really creates that kind of flexibility so that you can invest more in the product.
Good deal. Yeah, I would say about 40% of the projects that we work on throughout the Southeast take advantage of that program, and it does create a little bit of headaches working with the government, working with some of their restrictions, that they have on that. But it's something that we know as a design firm, we have a lot of experience kind of guiding and navigating that process. It may be a little bit slower to put together, like you mentioned, than conventional lending, but it's something that once you have that approval, you're pretty much guaranteed that the project, will come to completion at some point. So that being said, I wanted to talk a little bit more, Christian, about what sets you guys apart from other developers. One of the things that I've noticed, you had mentioned the Tulane Avenue corridor that you guys have worked on. That really brought a completely different type of apartment living to New Orleans. And it wasn't just a one-off project. Like you mentioned, 3 projects, 800 units. We were excited to be a partner with you on those. But can you talk a little bit about your philosophy at Domain and how it's really creating neighborhoods rather than these one-off projects?
Sure. So Domain overall, we have, most people know us primarily because of our real estate development platform. But we are a comprehensive development company. We acquire, develop, build, own, and manage all of our properties. And so whenever we are looking to get into a market, we usually look for emerging markets that is lacking, something. It's a number of things that they could be lacking, whether it's true Class A product, whether it's, the best operating platform that there is out there. I'll tell you that when we first started, opening and stabilizing property on Tulane Avenue, and then we started opening projects downtown, there wasn't even a full kind of online payment system that people had adopted in New Orleans. People were still dropping their checks off to their landlords and things like that. So just little things like that where you make the user the most important piece as opposed to the development company or the lender. Generally, what you do is we're able to figure out a way where we can not only fill a need, but also give people, the best product available, from not only the design to the usability to the amenities, but also the ease of use, the additional, complementary portions that we develop, like retail, and a lot of the uses that come along with that. So generally, what we're looking for in a lot of our markets is an emerging one. What we look for is upside and the ability to do everything that we do, from not only put great physical product out there, but also great managed product out there. And so, as you can see here, it's really, in New Orleans overall, but it was 2 very specific submarkets, the Tulane Avenue corridor and downtown New Orleans that are two examples of those kinds of things that we do. And because that we manage all of our properties, we are able to create that integration between all of the properties and kind of, rising tide the whole development.
Awesome. I can speak for probably a lot of people on this call right now, that when they first moved to New Orleans, they didn't grow up here, they usually had to sacrifice something in their apartment, whether it was a washer and dryer, or dishwasher, or even central AC. But the type of product that you guys have really brought to this market was different. And, I know Hurricane Katrina really brought a lot of those national developers here and really kind of elevated the entire standard of living for apartment units here in the market. So I want to bring in Jared now. Jared Watson, you helped with not only the design, but also the construction for the Odeon. As Christian mentioned, you can see a couple of the images, the early renderings that we have here. Can you walk us through your role in the project from that design phase and kind of through construction?
Yeah, sure. I am a development manager here at Domain, and I've been working on the Odeons since for the last 2 years. The story of the Odeon goes back beyond 2 years, beyond my time here. It's been in the planning phases for a number of years before that even. So seeing, these rendering options here with the different percentages of glazing and metal panels here that you see are all preliminary renderings that were kind of playful iterations here. But if you want to jump to the next slide, this is the final design here. So I can start by telling you guys kind of what's inside the building, and then we can tell you how it's made. So it's 273 units. Majority of the units are 1-bedroom apartments. Almost 75% of them are 1-bedroom apartments. About 20% are 2-bedroom apartments. We have a line of studios, and then the top floor are 6 penthouses. That's the 29th floor. So the podium of the building is retail and amenity on the ground floor. And you can see the podium here in this rendering. It is 200 parking spaces that will be parking for both the tenants and for public use. Floor 5 is an amenity floor, and then floors 6 through 29 are the apartment floors. The building is clad in aluminum composite metal, and it is a post-tensioned concrete slab building with a large core. The core is where we house the elevators and the stairwells, and that's also acts as our shear wall for the building. Can you jump to the next slide? Yeah. So here you can see the building. It's topped out. Still has the tower crane here and the buck hoists. So where we're at right now is we actually just finished the last metal panel on the building last week, which was a huge milestone for us. We, as Christian mentioned, that we are gearing up to open next month. And say that one of the bigger kind of construction issues here, navigating construction here, we had plenty of laydown space, as you guys can see at the bottom part of this image is our A2 parcel for South Market. But one of the bigger issues here was with the buck hoists and the tower crane, having to come back at the last minute and clad the exterior of the building, having temporary cladding, dealing with finishing those units and infilling the concrete slabs below where we had to penetrate the garage for the tower crane. that I would say was one of the trickier parts of working in an urban environment with a crane like this. And Scott, do you want to add anything to that?
Hey, Scott, I think you're on mute. So while Scott is getting himself, there you go. I just wanted to kind of tee that up. So Scott was our construction administrator with Humphreys. So he was on the site. I don't know, Scott, you probably lost count and lost sleep how many times you've been over there, but tell us a little bit about your role.
Well, I work as a construction administrator representing Humphreys and Partners Architects in the triangle of the architect, owner, and contractor. And in that capacity, I've handled approximately 550 submittals for various materials of the building, a little over 450 requests for information I've either answered or helped coordinate. I've had 50 site visits on the building. I've got 3 to go. And of course, handled coordinated payouts as well. I think it's a fantastic project to be involved with, and I really appreciate the opportunity. But one thing I might like to mention is what I love about the building specifically is the things you don't see, like the piles that are under the building. We have some that are under the tower. These individual piles are relatively deep and 14-inch square concrete. And some of those under the tower are tension piles, which can individually resist 50,000 pounds of uplift for wind loading and overturning moment kind of load. So this building will never move. I mean, the cladding may fly off of it, but the structure will stay, and it's all because of what's underground. I love that. Nobody will ever know it's there, but kind of nice knowing it's there.
Yeah, and Scott, you actually are one of the few people that has some unique experience dealing in high-rise buildings here in New Orleans. How did this compare to your other project, where it was a completely different program and kind of undertaking over at the Pythian? But what was it that really was the biggest difference in the 2 projects for you?
Well, the Pythian was a relatively abandoned structure built in 1910, and obviously a totally different building technology and materials. Anytime you're working in an existing structure and you want to modify it to make a new structure, anytime you open a wall, you might find something you didn't expect, or not find something that you did expect. So it had its own problems and issues to face, but it was a charming structure. It had incredible old details to it that we were able to preserve. And one thing I would like to say about it is it was wonderful to be a part of a project that I could bring back to the city of New Orleans from the past, just 5 blocks away from this building, which is a shining example of a new construction representing the newest architectural styles and techniques. That basically brings the future to the present, all on the same street. So I have a unique perspective on that. I know this shows a lot about me, but that's a wonderful experience.
Awesome. And then we'd be remiss to not mention the group that constructed all of the phases of South Market with Woodward. Casey, I don't want to put you on the spot here, but if there's anything that you wanted to add on the construction of the project, feel free.
I appreciate it. Yeah, it was a great project to be a part of. We utilized lean scheduling, which we really got into a good flow from the ground level up to level 20. And then unfortunately COVID hit and kind of squashed that a little bit, but we got our momentum back, and like they said, we're finishing up now, and we actually had our fire marshal walk through today, so it's looking good.
Excellent, excellent, good deal. Well, that being said, let's get to maybe some of the things that everyone wants to see, and I want to bring in Megan McNeil, the marketing director for Domain. One of the things that I really that sets Domain's projects apart from a lot of the other projects you see across the country is that attention to detail and branding. So Megan, you guys did a lot of work here on this. You want to walk us through that process for the project as it came online?
Yeah, absolutely. So this slide that you have up here, McDaniel, shows the Odeon's logo. We work with a design company called Square Feet Design on all of our property branding. They're incredible. They're based out of New York. So we worked with them to create a logo and a brand that really spoke to the nature of the building, which to me is sophisticated and elegant, but still playful. And the brand shows that. It showcases a lot of geometric elements. I think you'll see that in the colors and the website as well. The colors are here, like a nice, kind of a muted palette, but still there's a lot to work with here. So there's some deeper colors, some lighter tones, and it's given us a lot to play with as far as our collateral and digital presence is concerned. This is a screenshot of our website. You can see kind of all of those elements at play here. In a moment, Kirkland is going to take you through some of our renderings that showcase the property itself. We actually had a really successful photo shoot over the weekend, so we'll have real photos to share soon, which I'm excited about. The building looks absolutely incredible. But right now we have all of our renderings and everything up on the site. So it was a really fun brand to play around with. And every single one of our properties kind of has something different, and we like to try new things with each one. But since this project was so unique, we wanted that to be reflected here.
Yeah.
If anybody's interested in checking it out, it's odeonnola.com. You can see there, and that's the social media handles as well.
Yeah, I was actually doing a last second tour last week, getting prepared for this, and y'all were finishing the touches for your marketing photos. So glad to hear that those went off without a hitch. So Kirkland, you're the leasing specialist. You've got the pressure of leasing these incredible units up. So walk us through the project.
Yes, I do have that pressure. I'm reminded every day. But yes, it is, just like Megan said, it is a beautiful product. We're all very excited to see it really come to life these past few weeks. I was saying the other day, looking at these renderings, these are renderings, but even looking in the building, it truly looks just like this, and even better sometimes. So it's really coming together, and we're really excited. But yeah, I'll walk you through a bit of the inside of Odeon. So Odeon's design narrative is really three-tiered. Those three tiers being Scandinavian design, specifically from 1930 to 1970, French Quarter color scheme, and it's musically visualized. And I'll explain what that means. But so with those three tiers, at Scandinavian design, we kind of have a design philosophy that emphasizes simplicity, functionality, and clean lines. And I think that's very apparent in a lot of our renderings, or at least in my opinion. The purpose of this design is to improve daily life, and there's a strong connection to nature in the materials, shapes, and colors that were used. With French Quarter colors, we were incorporating both the European and local New Orleans influence with the design style of Odeon. So we were taking Scandinavian design and mixing it with something a bit more local, obviously the French Quarter. And the color palette inspiration, the French Quarter colors, ties the design narrative to that New Orleans community. So even though the design is a bit more minimalist and Scandinavian, it might not be something that you would see in the French Quarter in terms of color. We definitely went more New Orleans local-esque. And musically visualized. So what we mean by that is the actual name Odeon refers to an ancient Greek building where it was dedicated to musical performances. So with that, we illustrate that musical connection specifically through the art placement throughout Odeon. And we bring in a lot of both local artists as well as European art throughout the building as well. On that 5th floor, this is where this rendering is our entire amenity deck. Your residential floors don't start until 6 and go up to 29. This is a 30,000 square foot floor right here on floor 5. And like I said, they do house the amenities. There's also our outdoor amenity deck and then the leasing office as well. They include Scandinavian modern furniture, vintage and iconic pieces. So these pieces aren't just, or for the majority, aren't just mass-produced items. They are, hand-selected, picked, iconic antique pieces from around the world. The design feels both residential and collected, custom furniture crafted by local fabricators as well. So it's not just imported, but actually these two tables to the left in this rendering with the blue chair surrounding them, those are in Odeon, and those are actually made out of trees that fell down on Bonneville in Metairie. So you kind of have both some home inside Odeon as well as a lot of European influence as well.
Wow.
So the overall idea with the amenity deck, if you create environments where people feel comfortable, good, and inspired, we improve the way they live and work. So of course the apartments themselves are beautiful, but the amenities are obviously where we want you to spend a lot of time as well. And we want it to be as efficient and aesthetically pleasing and useful as your apartment would be. If you go to, let's see, we had the lobby rendering up there, but this is actually the gym. So the gym is nearly 5,000 square feet of space. I looked at it yesterday. All of our equipment is soon to be installed, but it is truly massive. One of our bigger gyms between our South Market properties. And in here we have tons of equipment, state-of-the-art exercise equipment. We have a little alcove off to the side that you can't see in this rendering that's like yoga specific. We'll be also offering a towel service. There's a water bottle refill station in here. And what I'm most excited about the gym, at least, you kind of can see in this rendering, you have two balconies off to the side of the gym that look directly over Loyola. So it's a nice little space to go for a breather after a workout. And which brings me to our outdoor portion of the amenity deck. So this space is really activated for relaxing, socializing, playing, eating. We do feature a gorgeous saltwater pool, and the water really is that blue, even now. There's tons of chase lounges and side tables for socializing and relaxing. One of my favorite pieces is our cabanas that we have directly behind the pool. I'm very excited about those. You have tons of dining space near your outdoor kitchens for barbecue pits, full service kitchens that our residents would have access to, which I am also very excited about. I'm excited about all of it. A lot of the materials used here, we have hardwood accents, concrete pavers, so it's a very aesthetically pleasing area as well. I really love the striped umbrellas. I think that really adds a luxe feel. But yeah, we have some green space up there. We have turfed areas both for residents, and then we also have a turfed dog run area for our furry residents. And yeah, it's just an absolute beautiful place to be. Even from up there on the 5th floor, you have the bridges in the background, and you can see into downtown. So you can be right above the hustle and bustle of being in metropolitan New Orleans, but in a very serene and relaxing environment on the 5th floor. It's truly something that I have, never seen before down here.
Excellent. Well, yeah, these are, like I said, I was able to walk through and just to see the level of finishes, those amenity areas, even some of the things too, back of house, which aren't the the images that really you want to put on the website, but for functionality and property management and kind of the user experience are very important to the entire lifestyle there. So that being said, thank you, Kirkland, for that overview. I was joking earlier, but based on what Christian had mentioned with you guys always continuing to kind of reinvent and bring more value to the market, there's no doubt that you guys, and from what I've heard, are already doing pretty well leasing. So congratulations. And
Thank you.
that being said, Megan, tell us a little bit about some of the new things that you guys are doing.
Yeah, Kirkland, thank you so much for giving that overview. That was great. I think it was a good choice to go over that after the branding too, because I think you can kind of see how all of that works together. You can see how the colors of the brands complement what you see in the building. This slide here, it's Domain's Flexible Living Program. We wanted to include it because it's something that has really come out of this year and out of COVID. And it's an example of a program that we've launched that that speaks to some of the demand that we've seen in the market. We have had people interested in moving, probably not a huge surprise, but not even moving permanently, but just experiencing a different city. So coming from New York to New Orleans, for example, in the winter, or going to Salt Lake to be able to ski. And they want flexibility, but it's not necessarily something permanent. So it's been an interesting trend. I think a lot of people have been seeing this or even experiencing it themselves, people working from home and want to try something new for a little bit. After we received some interest in a program like that, we did launch it. So we started this flexible living program since we have properties in all of the cities that I just mentioned, to allow people the flexibility to explore those cities for a while. So we provide like a furnished unit for them, flexible lease terms, complimentary utilities. It includes all of the amenities and everything. And all we ask is that people basically give us a 30-day notice to end their lease and, you know, come back. So it's a new program so far. I mean, we piloted it. I think we started it about a month and a half ago, a month and a half or 2 months ago. And we've already had some interest in some people taking advantage of the program. So that's been exciting. I mean, this is kind of a cool example, and I look at it as something sort of positive. And then, of course, the other thing that we've been doing at all of our properties, Odeon included, is just planning for, you know, safety measures and social distancing and all of that stuff. So those aspects have also been incorporated, not just into the Odeon, but all of our properties. You know, things like the amenity space, like the work from home amenity space that's at the Odeon has just taken on, you know, such an important role this year, and people have responded really well to it.
Absolutely. You know, not only that, but you know, as far as those experiences, some of the things that a lot of these projects are having, like you guys have here, not only the work from home, but also the guest suites as well. You can, you know, if you have people coming to visit, family coming to visit, there are guest suites involved in the Odeon that guests can rent for the night, right?
Yep, exactly. Yeah, that's a unique feature. We haven't done that at any of our other properties yet. So this is the first one that we've had that. But yeah, there's 2 units that are dedicated for residents that have visitors so that they can stay there and have all the amenities of like a hotel room. You know, there's a little kitchen area, bathroom, everything that you'd need.
Excellent. And then, you know, with the flexible living program and y'all's emergence into Salt Lake, maybe you'll have some of the housewives from the new season come through too. So
You never know.
That being said, I know we're kind of moving through here. I just wanted to, before we open it up to question and answer, I wanted to thank all of our design partners. I know we kind of focus on Humphreys and Domain here, but as we mentioned, Woodward, and then Faruqi that does just incredible detailing and design work. It lends a lot of information and kind of the feel from a lot of the restaurants and the hospitality projects that they do. So that being said, I want to open it up to questions. You know, I've got a ton of questions I can ask, but we want this to be interactive. You know, we understand it's approaching 5:30 on a Thursday. So appreciate everyone jumping on. So if you want to go ahead and ask a question, take yourself off mute, turn your camera on, and we'll love to you know, hear what people have to think about it. Matt, it looks like you.
I'll pipe in. Thanks, McDaniel. Are y'all able to talk about the plans you guys have for the rest of the block where the Odeon is located?
I can address that a little bit. So we're still in pre-development on that parcel. We've actually been working through kind of a lot of the optionality on that parcel. Obviously, it sits at the corner of Julia and Loyola, which is fairly prominent. But right now, we are trying to decide what is the best course of action with that site. And a lot of it will depend kind of on how we see the market bearing after things start to normalize. So at this point, I hesitate to give you our plan as such, but stay tuned because we'll have probably a lot more to describe about it within the next, hopefully, 6 to 8 months.
Great, thank you.
Excellent. Laura.
Quick point to that. Can you hear me?
Oh, Scott, go ahead.
Yes, in anticipation of that expansion to the final phase of the project, we had gone through a process with the safety and permits folks, specifically through the BBSA, the Bureau of, it's the appeals process to go through getting changes to get approval for code issues. We are now allowed to open the south end of the garage between the second and fourth floors to communicate and extend to a future phased garage that would basically be one monolithic new extension to the existing garage construction. So I know the plan is to move that way, but the final design has yet to be done. We just have that capacity to expand the garage in that direction.
Excellent. Thanks, Scott. Laura, you want to go ahead and ask your question?
Sure. Just curious on what the pre-leased occupancy is, kind of what the occupancy of the other South Market projects are, if Domain has any concerns with softness in the market kind of pre-COVID for the higher end market rate units, and then now especially with impacts of COVID.
Sure. So right now, we are approximately 10% pre-leased signed leases at Odeon, which is really actually very successful considering where we are today. Our occupancy in our other properties has dipped a little bit, but that is obvious and not surprising considering the market. In general, our properties at South Market hover between 95 and 99% occupied. So softness was not really an issue. And then, as we move forward, we're seeing a lot of, we already deal a lot with people that are renter by choice. And generally people in that mode of living, price is generally not their major determining factor. It is the things we talked about, which is, best and brightest product, management platform, amenitization, and all those types of things. So high-end softness is really not something we're so concerned about at this point. We do anticipate that we're going to be going through leasing 271 units over the next few months, we hope. And so we'll get to see exactly what's going on with that. The good part of all of this at this point is it seems like in our performance during COVID, our properties have already seen that decline and are moving back up to normal operations. And we're thinking that hopefully the market itself will normalize back to its 92 to 94% in the first quarter, second quarter of next year.
Yeah, Christian, a lot of the things that we see designing these apartment projects, not only throughout the Southeast, but across the country is, groups like NMHC that track rental income. Very surprising that collections were still very high. I think very optimistic, a lot of owners seeing those numbers come through. I know we had some stimulus that was helping, but to your point, the people that can work from home and have the amenities at their place to do that, still living in the same places, not a lot of movement, and still able to, continue working and pay that rent. So.
Right. Yeah. And additionally, just to add a little bit more color to that, is that, we do a lot with our platform, including programs like My Domain, which is a program that we offer with our retailers where we basically work with our retail tenants to offer discounts and promotions to our residents. So that mixed with the amenities that we provide, we develop a lot of resident and member loyalty. So people that have the ability to stay do stay when they can. And a lot of the folks that we see that live in South Market are generally, a certain tenant profile, and they have been able to find that work flexibility. And we generally provide the work from home flexibility that they need. So they don't need to move to another apartment. They don't need to find smaller office space elsewhere. And also, not only within building, but also obviously our shop platform as well.
Excellent. Hey, Elizabeth, how are you?
Hey, I'm doing well. How are you?
Go ahead.
I'm curious about parking, and I'm wondering if that's an amenity that's included within the price or if that's unbundled. And as far as like you providing parking within the garages, is that a minimum parking requirement, or is that just like what you think the demand is?
So in South Market specifically, I mentioned that we built the park with 500 parking spaces. It's actually 453 or something. And that was per a requirement, a HUD requirement of basically a space and a half per unit. And at that time, we had 209 units in the Paramount. And at that time specifically, things in downtown New Orleans were moving towards no parking requirement. So as we've moved through, what ends up happening is our utilization of our residents at South Market ends up really running out to be about a half a space per unit. So the park provides more than enough parking, even for almost all three buildings. But that all of our parking garages, with the exception of the standard, are public parking as well. So we're able to gain more revenue through daily parkers, hourly parkers, monthly contract downtown workers, and our residents. And we've seen so much change in the fact of, starting from square one, where it was a spot and a half per unit, and, all of the HUD requirements for parking. That change, that sea change over time, which we, like to think that we're an integral part of, is downtown living. Do you need a car? What do you need to do with your car? I mean, we've had residents that move to New Orleans with a car and then sell it because they live at the Paramount and work at the First Bank and Trust building or wherever. So right now we have in the Odeon 200 spaces within the building. That's obviously more than half space for our utilization purposes. But per HUD requirements, they now have their requirement is 1 space per unit. So what we've been able to do is sign a parking agreement with the park. So any overflow, if there was any, which there likely will not be, can be handled by the park's usage.
That's exciting to hear. Those ratios are catching on here in New Orleans, because it is a way to help attract young professionals that want to be untethered from their car. And it doesn't surprise me that, HUD does try to do some things a little bit, maybe a little bit late to the game on some of those trends. It'll be interesting to see. They have some kind of standards as far as the size of units. We've seen it nationally kind of shrinking, and they've been somewhat averse to studios in the past, but hopefully they see the success of them and it kind of changes their kind of predetermined thoughts on it. So great question, Elizabeth, and that's exciting to hear how that transformation has happened in downtown New Orleans. Anyone else have any questions? Going once, going twice. All right, so it's approaching 5:30. We are recording the session, so if anyone wants to go back and watch it, we're actually putting together a database of all of our ULI kind of content hour information. It's been really, really great. We have some really good guests. Now, I want to make sure we have a shout out to, as the building is completed, take a look at Odeon NOLA on Instagram. They have some really great posts and really kind of behind the scenes information. With us at Humphreys, we share projects throughout the country if you're interested in multifamily design trends. And then also ULI Louisiana. We had some really exciting news recently. We've received a grant for our latest technical assistance panel for helping our friends up in North Baton Rouge do some things over in Plank Road. So continue to do good work in responsible land use. And then upcoming events tomorrow morning, if you're not a member, we have a new member orientation. Next week, after Thanksgiving, starting our book club. We had a great participation in The Color of Law. We're jumping into Evicted. And then the next content hour is with the World War II Museum. And then Nina Compton is going to join us and give us an update on the restaurant industry. So Also, January 27th, we'll have our annual Emerging Trends Conference. Details still getting finalized, but that'll be our biggest event of the year. Always a good time. And thank you, everyone. Christian, Jared, Megan, Kirkland, Scott, everyone for jumping on. Have a great night and stay safe out there, everybody.
Thanks. Bye.
See y'all.